My name is Andrew Lloyd. I have been at Centralian Senior College for the last 10 years. I teach a Year 12 maths class, and I'm also the assistant principal at the school. We know the research says that clear, explicit teaching is important. Clear, explicit expectations for students are important. Good feedback to students is important. You just don't encourage it with your students, but you encourage it with the teachers as well.
Yes, I agree with you. There definitely is a need to actually give an explicit, clear guideline. Look, this is a standard way of tackling this sort of question, where you're showing steps of logic, where you're showing reasoning all the way through, and they find out an answer. I think that's a necessary part. I like the idea of students gathering and collating information, even constructing their own reality in terms of what the maths concept is. I think there's definitely a need to, to give a logical, clear, explicit meaning on top of that.
Is there a faster way that I could actually do that? Is there a faster way? How can I actually work out? Because if I asked you, if I said, what's $10,000 indexed to inflation over 20 years, you're going to be there for a long time doing that.
What about the compound interest formula?
The compound interest formula could do it, which is? The way I've been working with other teachers to improve their practice is we have a discussion about what really does work in the classroom. One of the best things that we talk about is having good feedback to students, making sure that students get quality feedback, whether it's from a test or whether it's on the spot, whether they understand a concept. The first thing I do every day before I get into the main bulk of the lesson is I quiz the students. I'm trying to get feedback in terms of their knowledge, their current knowledge, and what I actually need to do to extend them. So I use the sorts of phrases, are you with me? Do you understand me? Luke, you're looking a little bit perplexed, but you're cool about that? Does that make sense or not? Priscilla, how are you with that? Some of the answers you're just not expecting, really. So, like today when I actually asked what was inflation, somebody said a balloon blowing up. Right. So if I've got a certain amount of money, what does that mean? What does the word inflation mean with money? We're not talking about balloons, we're talking about money. So it gets what? It grows, the money grows. And sometimes I'll actually ask even a more in-depth question. Today, the question was, is there negative inflation? Does that answer your question, Sam? Yes. About negative inflation. So it doesn't usually happen. At the moment, like in Europe, I've actually heard that the inflation rate's dropping right back. So in some cases, you will get stuff like this happening. I suppose the onus is to try to develop a really collaborative type classroom where the kids talk with each other, where they feel quite comfortable sharing their knowledge. I believe teaching has to be infectious. I aim for students to maybe debate concepts and maybe feedback off each other. Having their own learning groups is perfect because it means that they'll take that away with them and talk about that outside the classroom. We need to make sure that we teach a topic from a variety of different angles. Today when I was teaching, I showed them a graph to make sure that the visual learners could really understand the difference between inflation and the future value of an investment. So some students already understood that, but some students who think visually need to be able to look at that as well. What about the use of, like, say, concrete materials in your classes? I know that you've actually used quite a few visual aids and even seen that you use Lego blocks and things like that in class. Would you say that your strategies in, say, using the Tina wafer biscuits or using the Lego for concrete use, are they explicit to the kids? Do the kids actually find that a clear way of learning?
I think the Lego one was clear and explicit.
So it engaged the students, and then they were able to run with, with building the distribution, what you say, and their level of understanding. Did you find that they were actually talking about the binomial concepts? So how would you work out how much interest you've made from that?
Well,
it is, it's amazing. I run into the kids and they go and say at the end, I use that math stuff, I was buying a car and yeah, I can see how, if you reduce the principal, you're not paying as much interest. It actually works. Who would have thought that what I do in maths actually works in the real world? And that's the really encouraging thing about being a teacher, I think, when you see students a couple of years down the track and you see that they have applied what you've been talking about in class.
to what extent has educational research influenced your teaching practice? What teaching strategies are used in your school to promote critical and creative thinking? What steps would you take to implement new approaches to teaching and learning among a group of teachers in your school?